You were the chosen one. You were supposed to destroy the Sith. Hey, what's up to all my Licious fans? Steve Alicious here. And that's not to mean that this is a bad device. It's not to mean that I don't love the phone, because I do. I just think when we add up all the things that we're going to be talking about here, it's not the everything for every one phone that I feel like it should have been. I feel like it could have been with the specs that they put in here, and certainly at the price that they're offering it at, $1,200. This should have been a lot more, and it still has opportunity to be a lot more with updates. But quick channel programming note, a lot of you guys like to point out when I wear my Islander watch, because I do enjoy them. We have an exciting announcement coming up next week with Long Island Watch, so stay tuned for that. Really cool stuff. I want to take the time first off to talk about all the things I like about this device, because I usually go off into the rants, and there's going to be plenty of them later on in the video, but people tend to get the wrong impression with that and think that I really don't like the device just because I'm focusing in on these few things. The build quality is the best you're going to find. The screen, these panels that Samsung puts on these devices are the best you're going to find. The refresh rate is excellent. The performance is spot on. To me, it's the best Android experience you're going to get right now, especially readily available in the United States. If you're in the market for an Android phone and you're getting a good discount, which if you're paying full price for this, let's talk about that. If you're paying full price for this, you're doing it wrong. There are so many carrier deals and Samsung deals and trade-in deals and all the rest of it that you should be getting a pretty healthy discount on this. So for the money that you could, if you're in the market, you're getting a good deal, this absolutely should be at the top of the list. The camera is excellent. Arguably one of the best. I personally, when you start getting to this point now, it's not like years ago where the Pixel 2 XL was far and away the best camera. It wasn't even subjective. You just looked at the thing and said, "Oh boy, that's really nice," compared to iPhone and the Samsungs of the day. Now it's a little bit more subjective. Well, I like the way that this one handles color a little bit better. I like, oh, this one's a little bit warmer, this one's a little bit cooler, this one's a little bit sharper. And we're going to show some of the images now. And if you get the coloring and you can capture the beauty of a tortoiseshell cat, then you have a pretty good camera system on your phone. So we'll show that. We'll show some of these other ones. The color on the keyboard is exactly what I saw with my eye. That aqua that it's showing there is exactly what I saw. The representation of the image is excellent. The way it handles the shadows and the contrast and everything is absolutely phenomenal. The S Pen is the best I've ever used. The latency, obviously they talk about that, but in the responsiveness, it's just that good. It feels like you're writing on the actual surface. Even if you're just doing it for silly things, you're going to notice a difference there, the improvements that they've made. The power is there. The performance is there. Everything works. The snappiness, the games, your Genshin's going to run fine. I know we're going to talk about some of the throttling stuff a little bit later on. But the One UI experience that they've come to build here through the iterations and the generations of One UI is the best one. The build, as we talked about, I love the design. This color is fantastic. There is just so much to love. And like I was talking about when we were speaking of the fold devices and how it's going to be tough for me to get excited about a slab again. Maybe you don't want to count this as a traditional slab because they have the S Pen, but this has gotten me excited about using a slab phone again. When you use one, you want to keep using it. And that's why when we talked about the battery in the impressions video, I was disappointed because it's not a device that you find yourself wanting to use less. It's not a device that you're saying, well, I could live with 3.5, 4 hours of screen on time because it's not an enjoyable experience. This is such an enjoyable experience that you want to use it more. And you keep pulling it out of your pocket, and you keep browsing for things, and you keep scrolling, and you keep drawing. Whatever it is you're going to do on this device, you're going to love it. So from that standpoint, you're getting everything that you paid for. And you're going to enjoy the experience, and you're going to enjoy the phone. However, now this is where we come into the other stuff. The battery is absolutely a disappointment. And it's average, bordering on bad. And I don't care that it's the Snapdragon fault, it's the Snapdragon's Qualcomm's fault. for the way that they've fabricated the chips and what they've given them. It's Samsung's decision, and that's their name on the back there. Okay, Samsung. It is their decision to put it in the phone. They put the new cooling vapor chamber in here to try to mitigate some of the overheating and the throttling and all the rest of it. They decided to put this chip in here. They got to live with the results. And the results aren't good. And while Apple has gone away from chips that don't provide the battery life, and they kind of redesigned things from the ground up to get you superior battery life in the iPhone 13, how Google, I gave them credit in that video, as much as I like to rag on them for a lot of the goofy things that they do, they made an effort. They said, look, we're going to have a more custom solution that's going to get better battery life. It may not be as powerful as a Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, but who cares? Because you're not using most of this power anyway. So if you could sacrifice a little bit, where in the user experience you don't feel it on the back end, and save all that battery life, to me, that's the trade-off you're going to want to make. I remember reading a tweet somewhere that said, why don't we prioritize battery life as a main feature of smartphones, especially on the Android side? They're starting to on the Apple side because they have one up there. There's a saying with football, I forget who used to say it. One of the guys in New York on radio here, it said, when you're playing football, the best ability is availability. And on these smartphones, the availability is going to be the battery life. And it's at least part of the conversation. When you spend $1,200 and it's a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, you're going to want to get more than 4.5 hours. I don't think that's crazy at relatively decent settings. So the S21 Ultra started off the same way. This was best on the first day I used it. And then it got worse from there. And then I started shutting stuff off on Facebook and Chrome and Bluetooth, and it got better. But you shouldn't have to do that. Well, you can't use a smartwatch with your $1,200 phone because the battery can't handle it? Come on. It's got to get better. It's got to get better. So Samsung, you had a year. Now you're going to have this a whole other year. You want to blame it on whatever, the supply chain shortage, they couldn't fabricate their own stuff, they couldn't come up with a design for Exynos that worked across all the phones. You got another year, figure it out. Maybe it's time to move away from Qualcomm because they can't figure it out, much like PowerPC and IBM couldn't figure it out back in the day for Apple when they switched over to Intel. Same deal. You can fry an egg on these things if you let them without the cooling chamber and all the rest of it, and the battery life stinks. I turned Bluetooth back on, I lost a half an hour. And I can absolutely see people are jumping up and down saying I get 3.5, 4 hours. I can absolutely see that being an issue. I could see how people could do that. Battery life is unique for everybody. Everybody's circumstance is different. But when the majority of people are having issues, and I can absolutely see where that comes from, you got a problem. And while they did eventually sort of get it right, I guess, on the S21 Ultra, it took them 9 months. You're not paying your $1,200 9 months from now. You paid it already. You should be able to get full use of your phone. And that brings us to the camera lag, and the shutter lag in particular. The shutter lag is unacceptable. And for Steve Licious Tech to be spending time on a camera discussion, it's got to be bad. The S21 Ultra had a little bit. They always had something to do with it. They always had a little bit of shutter lag. This is incredibly pronounced, to the point where in the past 2 days, I take 3 pictures a week. 4, maybe. For me to notice it back to back on days is a problem. Every photo I take, it was just... And the problem is, when you hit the shutter button, there's really not a satisfying point where you could say it was activated. There's no actuation animation or something like that you feel is satisfying. You take it, you hit the button, and just nothing happens. And you're like, McFly, what's going on? And then eventually it'll process the image and throw it in your gallery. But by that time, I was already hitting it again. I've taken double pictures at least twice. And don't talk to me. I see a lot on Twitter. Don't talk to me about how there's ways around that and how you could use single take and explaining to me why that is because of the processing that Samsung does. I don't care. These are consumer level devices. Don't tell me that it's my problem because there are ways to mitigate. I don't mitigate. I paid them $1,200 to mitigate. This is a consumer level device. If this were the Xperia Pro that they're charging $2,500 for, that's a different story. We're not camera professionals. I should be able to point and shoot with this. I don't care if that's their process, if that's how it happens, and that's why there's shuttle lag. Change your process. You're a multi-billion-dollar corporation. Put a couple bucks into R&D and change it. Because while the result is excellent, the image is excellent, that is unacceptable level of lag. It's a second. It's a full second. And it's not like the shutter closes or the screen closes or something happens to let you know. It's like, all right, well, at least it recognizes I hit the button. Nothing happens. It just sits there and stares at you. Well, you know, not that I get upset about things. Not that I get worked up. But that's why I wanted to put this stuff at the end. Because I didn't want any confusion in thinking I didn't love the device. And just like the Pixel 6, we get uppity about things and we push things and we make notes of things so companies recognize it and fix it. Like the throttling thing. A bunch of people brought that up. I personally don't think it's a big deal, but they should at least allow you an option to disable it. A bunch of people made a stink. And what happened? Samsung had to address it, and they're working on it. That's how you handle stuff. You don't brush it, sweep it under the rug. You don't say, we'll deal with it. Be passionate about the devices you care about, and you're going to wind up getting better results from the companies because of it. So just because I got a little upset here in the last few minutes, those are things that I need addressed, but because I love the device, because I want to be able to use it and get the full functionality of it, because it's awesome. And you should not buy it because of that, because it's excellent. You absolutely should buy it. You should buy it and enjoy it. Because if you use it under 5 hours of screen on time, you're good. If you can top it off during the day, you're good. You're going to get the best Android experience there is right now. And a phenomenal build quality on top of it, and the S Pen. So go ahead and buy it. I understand that there are limitations, and hope we keep pushing them, and they release updates. If you've made it this far, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Until next time, have that Steve-licious day.